feared and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Chasing the Pennant podcast. A very happy Chasing the Pennant podcast as the Phillies are off to a 4-0 start against a couple of their division rivals. I'm your host, Rob, joined today by Mr. Joe Borek. How you doing, Borek?
Doing well. Always doing better after a great start by the Phillies, definitely for sure, and excited to talk about these games thus far.
Yeah, it's been great. Got the sweep over the Atlanta Braves. Got the come-from-behind 8th-inning rally against the Mets last night that sent them to 4-0 on the season. And looking back on it 2 years ago, 2019, the same deal. They swept Atlanta. They went down to D.C. and won that game to get up to a 4-0 start. A little bit different. They did that more with offense, and the pitching wasn't so great back then. Other way around this time, the pitching has been excellent. Starting pitching has been excellent, even though Matt Moore had kind of a rough night last night. Did what he could to keep them in the game. The bullpen has been unreal. The bats haven't been great, but they've come through when they've needed to, as in JT's game-tying hit last night, and then doing what they could, taking advantage of some Mets misplays to score 5 runs in that 8th inning. Borek, how excited are you over this 4-0 start, and how do you compare it to the 4-0 start from 2 years ago?
Well, I think this one's better just because we know this team when you just look at them on paper, even going into this year, as Jim Salisbury and others I listen to podcast-wise or on NBC Sports cited, we thought going in they would have a much better bullpen, and that's obviously come to fruition this far, and having a better rotation has come to fruition. Moore was shaky after 2, but at least kept them in the game. I think that 3rd inning kind of dampened his start since he had a bunch of pitches in that inning, and that kind of taxed him.
He was pulling his inner Vince Velasquez right there.
Yeah, but I think as time goes on and he readjusts back to the majors, there's some things I like what I saw from him, so I think he'll be able to adjust better and go at least 5 2/3, and then with the bullpen we have, that's mighty fine this year. I think the big thing is I like how we've won because of pitching, where last year, and especially in 2019 and last year, you would never say that, particularly last year when your bullpen was one of the historically worst bullpens in the history of baseball. So I think it's really good to win based off of our pitching because we know the offense is going to come with this team just looking at the guys you have. So you know that's eventually going to come. Once that comes, you're already having momentum and some adrenaline via the fan base now that you have them in the stadium, like the guy said, is a huge game changer. That's going to build even more once the offense gets going because they left a lot of guys and runners in scoring position. But once that gets going, combined with everybody that's just dominating in the bullpen and our top 3 guys in the rotation, who obviously are your most pivotal anyway, dominating also. So I think that's what I like to see because we know the offense is going to come. If we won just based off of the offense, I would have more question marks going forward, where winning based off of the pitching, I don't really have question marks going forward as 4 games in because I know the offense is going to come.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like you said, the offense is going to come. The pitching, which has been the big downfall over the past few years, looks to be great so far. Aaron Nola, excellent on opening day, except for the one pitch he threw to Pablo Sandoval. Zach Wheeler,
over career
lights
300
out.
Pinch hitter. I'm not sure if you knew that, but he's over a career 300 pinch hitter.
He's up there, yeah. He's definitely one of those guys who turns it up a little bit when he's coming to the plate in the pinch hitting situation. Not quite the same when he's starting, but as a pinch hitter, he's always done well throughout his career. But anyway, game number 2, Zach Wheeler, lights out. Also contributed with an RBI single and an RBI double. He was excellent in that game. Retired 17 consecutive batters before he was taken out of the game by Joe Girardi.
Who needs
and
a
then,
DH?
I'm sorry?
Who needs a DH?
Who needs a DH?
Screw the DH. Yeah.
Who needs a DH? Ain't that the truth? Zach Wheeler just doing it all when he was out on the mound. And then the other Zach Eflin, equally as impressive in his turn to complete the sweep over the Atlanta Braves. Of course, Nola and Eflin did not get decisions. Those were bullpen games that were won. Gene Segura walking off on opening day, and then Alec Boehm with a go-ahead single on Sunday. And then yesterday, Matt Moore, not quite as impressive from the starting pitching perspective, but as he said, it's his first time back in the major leagues in quite some time. He spent last season over in Japan. The Phillies, as they mentioned on the radio broadcast last night, obviously with COVID, we're not actually able to see him in person when he is pitching over in Japan. They got the tape. They decided, hey, that's pretty impressive. We're going to invite him to spring training. He impressed at spring training, got the number 4 spot in the rotation. And he wasn't terrible last night. I mean, he only went 3 2/3, but he only gave up the 2 runs. And you could partially blame that on the misplay in center field by Adam Hazley. So it wasn't the worst outing ever. It could have been a lot better, but it also could have been a lot worse. And then the Phillies bullpen just came in and did an excellent job of damage control from that point on, giving them a chance to win the game.
Yeah,
so,
2 things real quick on that, though. I don't know. Obviously, people, I think, see Didi's posts after the games, which are absolutely hilarious, as caricatures he has for each person. I think someone should take the great one he has of Eflin looking pissed off as he throws the pitch, and the good one he has of Wheeler looking pissed off, and just make a shirt that says Zack Attack on it, and then just have those 2 caricatures in the middle of the shirt, because I would totally buy that shirt if somebody made that. That's just something I'm throwing out there as a free
you just
idea.
came up with the idea. Why don't you go through with it?
I would suck at doing that, and I don't have the money to put out to make T-shirts. So whoever wants to do that, I would definitely buy the shirt. But I think another funny thing is I didn't realize how much of a weird, off-putting type of cool dude Brendan Kintzler was when I listened to his interview that they had on the radio post-game, where he's like one of those guys that's like kind of reminds me a little bit of the country vibe that Myers brought, where he's like, the hell yeah, like how he gave that, where they asked him about who got the big double play, of course, after Moore came out in the 4th game, that he asked him about becoming a broadcaster because he seemed to have that vibe and know that much about the game. And he kind of seems to have the same mentality as Kruk there, which I found funny at the end of his playing career, where it's like, well, it could seem like a good idea, but I feel like I would get in trouble. Because he tends to curse and say things you wouldn't want to say on a broadcast, like Crucky got in trouble at ESPN. So those are just some funny, light-in-the-mood things I thought of from the early part of the season thus far as well.
I want to go back to your shirt idea real quick, and I want to make sure that if the rest of our podcast members are listening to this, and they should be, especially Shane, because he's the one who's in charge of most of the stuff here, that could be a good marketing play right there. That could be a good idea to get that design somehow put on a shirt, and then we could make a few bucks off that. Obviously, we'd have to go through some trademark stuff to get there, but that could be a good idea for us to go through with that. So keep an eye out on the
potentially we'll see. Yeah,
our team store or podcast store that we'll have up in the future, hopefully at some point. We could run with that idea there. So Borek, you're the mastermind behind that.
Yeah. You hit some good ideas every time. Like they say, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, so it goes the same with ideas. So
you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we talked about how impressive the Phillies pitching has been, and really that's carried them through the first 4 games. The offense hasn't really been there. They've gotten some timely hits. Gene Segura, obviously, with the walk-off on opening day. Alec Boehm with the go-ahead single on Sunday. And JT with the big hit that kind of spurred things in the 8th inning last night. But I know you said that the offense is going to come. But at what point do you think that you would be concerned if they're not starting to turn around offensively? Would you give it, say, another week or so?
Well, I would say after we actually face not top 3 starters, because that's also the other thing that we've been doing. I mean, we faced the Braves gauntlet, and then you come in and face the best pitcher in baseball in Jacob deGrom because the Mets didn't play against the Nationals. So that's definitely, I would say, tonight is kind of a 50-50. Is it a sample as we record this on the 6th for the game that's going to be played where Stroman pitches against Anderson? It'll probably come out tomorrow, but this will be an interesting game for as people hear this tomorrow, what we do against Stroh, just because he hasn't pitched in a full year, but obviously he's a pretty damn good pitcher himself. So that'll be the interesting one, but I think it's more when you see the team's equivalents of the Chase Andersons, or something against those guys that just fourth and fifth starters, and other teams' equivalents of the Matt Moores of the world. Like how the offense starts doing then, because you saw some of the game's better young pitchers in the Braves series, and then you obviously saw Jacob deGrom against the Mets in the first game, who's the best pitcher in all of baseball. So I think that plays a huge factor into how many guys you left in scoring position. Both of these teams also tried to put into their pen a little bit, even though that one video you sent the guy would disagree. But both teams have definitely tried to put into their pen a bit. So I definitely see the offense coming, but I think it's going to come when we start facing pitchers that are not as top heavy of a rotation. Tonight could be it because Stroman didn't pitch in a full calendar season. So we'll have to see how that affects him as people listen to this tomorrow. Maybe we'll have a nice offensive onslaught tonight, or we'll just have a good pitching performance and win again. I'll take either.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there, because the Nationals COVID situation canceling that opening series between the Mets and the Nationals, we had to face Jacob deGrom last night. So we've faced the cream of the crop pitching wise so far, and it hasn't been a great go, but maybe it's a good thing for this offense to get some ABs in against some of the top starting pitchers in baseball, as opposed to starting off with one good pitcher and then some guys who aren't quite as good. So they're getting some ABs against the best of the best, which is not necessarily a bad thing. And then once you start to face some of the back end guys, then it might come offensively for the Phillies. And by the way, I'm looking at the numbers right now, and Marcus Stroman throughout his career in 5 games against the Phillies does not have great numbers. The Phillies as a team have hit .293 against him in his 5 starts. They've scored a bunch of runs. They've hit 3 homers off of him. So maybe they can continue that success against Stroman, and maybe he's what they need, believe it or not, to get going. As you mentioned, this is his first time pitching in more than a year because he sat out due to COVID, or he didn't want to play.
So hopefully
with all
he
the
doesn't become the Buster Posey of pitchers.
Yes.
As long as he doesn't become the Buster Posey of pitchers, would be all good, because Buster Posey has taken a year off and since looks like the MVP version of himself in these first 4 games for the Giants. So as long as that doesn't happen to Marcus Stroman, then we'll be good. But it's actually funny, if you look at their surface numbers, they're a lot closer than you would think. Stroman for his career has a 14.9 WAR with a 3.76 ERA and a 1.292 WHIP. And then if you look at Anderson, as it's loading here, he has a 1.275 WHIP, an 8 WAR, and a 4.06. So some of their numbers are not as far as you would think they would be for as high touted of a prospect Stroman obviously was, and as more of a journeyman starter Chase Anderson is. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in tonight's game as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I think they're fairly, obviously you're not going to say evenly matched when you're mentioning Marcus Stroman and Chase, but it's not the worst starting matchup, in the world, and it wasn't for the Phillies last night. They're still able to pull out a win.
Yeah, it's a difference of style where Stroh's all about trying to get it past you in movement. Anderson's kind of that old school kind of like the young Dylan Cease's, which has speed but kind of locates in Chicago. One of those type of pitchers that's more based off of location than let me just gun everything and have the filthiest movement to get you out. Now his changeup has good movement, but I mean he's obviously good at locate his fastball to get you out, not gun it past you. So
Yeah, exactly. I will say that one thing that kind of bothered me a little bit about the Phillies offense last night is that DeGrom was just pumping fastballs by him. He wasn't going, I think at one point, 26 out of his first 27 pitches were fastballs. And I think he kind of continued that. He mixed a few more sliders in as the game went along. But the fact that he was just pumping fastballs by him and they weren't really making great contact, it's kind of a frustrating thing. And yeah, I know that they're going to come around at some point, but you got to be able to hit fastballs, man. You can't just let a starting pitcher go out there and pump fastball after fastball past you and not catch on to it and not start, getting some good cuts on them, making some good contact. So
yeah, I mean, we have to remember all fastballs aren't created equal, where obviously a Chapman and a DeGrom fastball is not equal to an Andrew Heaney or a Matt Moore fastball. So I think it's a little the dude I think came out and they said threw most of those pitches over 100 that you mentioned in the first 27 with a lot of adrenaline. So that factors into it also. I agree with you. You got to hit more fastballs, but DeGrom is one of the best in the game, so I think that plays into it too. If this was somebody like Patrick Corbin, who again is another guy that gets you more out with his wits, and all of a sudden he was blowing fastballs past you, then you would be going, okay, what the hell is going on out here? Somebody needs to figure him out, or as Ricky Bo likes to say, what is he doing? So.
Yeah, the thing with DeGrom, though, is he throws so hard that he supplies the power for you. So all you got to do is basically what Reese did in his first at bat. Reese took a nice, easy swing and let the power be supplied by the pitcher. He knocked it off the top of the wall in right field and unfortunately got thrown out by about 50 feet trying to go to third and turn it into a triple there. But that was one of the few good at-bats that they had against DeGrom last night.
And Reese went the other way again, too, for a big hit, which it's nice to see. Kruk mentioned it in the broadcast. If he can do that, that's when he's at his best. Because last year you saw him rolling over a bunch of pitches that came to the outside corners of the plate, wherever it was top, middle, or high corner. And if he can just kind of slap that the other way, like he was able to do for a bomb that he ended up getting thrown out at third, and for that single that was into right, that would be a lot more helpful and pivotal to his game, and also pivotal for my fantasy team as well. So let's get it going.
Yeah, good old fantasy team. So Reese is pulling double duty for you, not just playing for your favorite baseball team, but also for your fantasy team. So no pressure, Reese. No pressure at all right there.
Nope, he's got this.
Yep. Anyway, how has this 4-0 start? Has this 4-0 start affected what you see in this team for this year? Has it affected where you think that they can finish in the standings, giving you a little bit more hope, perhaps, or are you just kind of maintaining what you felt before and not getting too far ahead of yourself with changing the expectations?
I would say for now the latter, just because it is 4 games. How goodly, yeah, we'll make that a word. Screw it. I'm Kevin Millar today. I'm creating words. How goodly pitched these games were. I think that's great to see, and the offense is going to come, but the Mets did not play a whole series, so they were coming in cold. So you want to see them in this next series replay them in when they're actually coming in with some games in their bellies. So I think that's going to be a little bit different. The Braves, we're now going to play them in Atlanta in this next series, see what we do there rather than at the home bank. So that's what I really want to see. I think after these next Braves and Mets series, if we do great away too against them, especially in a 4-game series, if you're able to take that against the Mets, which is the next one against them, that's when you'll probably start saying, okay, now, even though it's still early, it would only be like a little bit over double digits, I think, sample size at that point. You might start speaking in a bit different terms. But after 4 games, I think it's a bit premature to do that. Even after then, it's still premature to do that because you don't want to fall into the Flyers trap.
No.
So that's the other side of that, too. And people that are also Flyers fans know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's the other side of that. But right now, I still see us being a competing for the wild card team until everything churns a little bit further and we still keep beating the Braves and Mets also in their own stadiums and not just at home, because winning at home is great. If you can do that, you'll probably make the postseason. But you also obviously have to win on the road to be able to be successful at all if you do make the postseason and not just make it by being 500 on the road. That doesn't usually lead to success in the postseason.
Yeah. Yeah, that much I do agree with. And by the way, getting back to creating words, I don't know if you were listening to the radio broadcast last night, but Larry Anderson created the word Dunnerish.
Dunnerish. Oh, yeah.
He was talking. Okay, so he was talking about, they were discussing Jacob deGrom sitting in the dugout with the towel around his neck, wondering if he was going to be done for the game, if he was going to come back out and pitch another inning. And Larry Anderson described him sitting there looking like he wasn't going to come back in the game. He described him as looking Dunnerish. Looking like he's done.
I guess he's trying to stay with the trend, since a lot of millennials used to always try to add ish. Like he would say, I'll be on around 7-ish. I'll get there around 8-ish or 9-ish. So I guess he was trying to go with that old, which is not really a trend anymore, but that old trend.
Probably good old Larry Anderson. The guy is a national treasure. Love listening to him on the radio. But I agree.
I was happy he came back. I was sad Bill Clement retired, but I was happy Larry came back. So
good old LA
in season. Yeah.
Radio broadcast would not be the same without LA. But getting back to what you were saying before, I do agree that 4 games is too early to cast judgment. Now, you could make the case that the predictions we were making before were based on feel and, just what we saw out of spring training. And then obviously things can change a lot once you see the team in regular season action. So some people may change their opinion just based on that. I'm sticking with what I said before. I think they're a mid to high 80-something win team, significantly improved over what they've been in the past few years. I think that they're going to contend for the division. Don't necessarily think that they're going to win it, but I think they will be good enough to at least make things interesting late into September. And I think that at the very least, they're a wild card team. Yes, they could win the division. I mean, they certainly have the talent to do it. But I think, they're definitely a team that'll contend late into the season for the division title. And at the end of the day, should settle for no less than a wild card spot. And the first 4 games it further nailed that home to me, because we know that they have the pitching and we know that the bats are going to come around. So I'm feeling pretty good.
For me, I'm kind of still in the biscuit. Like, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Like I said, I think we're around 500 to like an 83, 84, which is right below mid 80s. If we get that win team, which might in some years, depending how competitive the wild card race beats people down in. If the NL wild card gets there, 84 to 85 can get you there. It's not always common, though. But I would say the Phillies have that chance. If they keep pitching like this, then they have a chance to win the division. It's just the sample size is too quick of a sample size to jump on. But obviously, if they keep pitching like this, your offense is going to have to suck in order for you not to at least make a wild card spot. And if your offense starts going, then you should be able to win the division. The problem is, I'm not jumping on that after 4 games. I fall into traps all the time when it comes to my other favorite team, the Philadelphia Flyers.
I think we all fell into that trap this year.
Not doing that here. So we're going to wait a little bit, probably until a full month. And then at the end of April, we'll go, okay, this is how we're looking and this is how we're moving and grooving here. And then we're moving the right direction there and try to give some passive judgment then, not trying to pass any premature judgment on the Phillies too much when it comes to this year. But if they cruise through April pretty well, that leads to great signs, since their April was great. It was graded as one of the hardest Aprils in baseball. So.
Yeah, and I think we all fell into that trap 2 years ago when they got off to that hot start in Bryce's first year. They were leading the division for quite some time, and then the McCutchen injury happened, and it was kind of all downhill from there. So you've got to account for that stuff, too. You got to account for the possibility of injuries, and fingers crossed, knock on wood, hopefully they stay healthy this season, or hopefully the injuries that they do have are fairly minimal and not affecting star players.
And the big thing is with that, though, when you got injuries, Glentak didn't do much of
No.
anything. Where I feel like Dave Dombrowski in Detroit and Boston kind of proved her get rental guys if need be, if somebody goes down and you need to fill that gap for even just that particular season. So I feel like having him gives me even more comfortability. Obviously, no crap, I don't want anybody to get injured. But if it happens, I think having him in-house, now convincing Middleton to spend, it seems, will make me go, okay, even if this guy gets paid a crap load for the rest of the season, the Phillies probably will just take that on just to say, this is filling, Dave will convince him, this is filling the gap for this season. We ain't going to get there. See what happened, like you just said, when Kutch went down in 19, this will happen again if you don't let me do this. And I think having the experience of Dombrowski is going to give that leeway to have Middleton go, okay, go ahead and do it. So I'm more confident with him at the helm for that reason also.
Yeah, he's certainly a more aggressive GM than Matt Klentak was, and he's certainly a guy who will have no reservations about going out and filling a need when he wants to if there's a need that's created by an injury situation there. So that's where, yeah, I'm more comfortable with having Dombrowski in that situation than I ever was with Klentak, because the guy goes down with Klentak as GM, you might as well write that whole position off until that player comes back, because there's going to be no valid replacement there. But with Dombrowski, I think that's a different case. I think that he would be able to adequately fill that position, at least in the short term, until the injured player is ready to come back. So hopefully we don't need him to prove that to us this year. Hopefully the guys stay healthy. But if there is a situation, I trust Dombrowski to fulfill it at least adequately until the injured player is ready to return. So we mentioned the Phillies offense has been struggling so far, and only one home run. That was off the bat of Sean New's favorite player, Andrew Knapp. A beautiful swing. He cranked it off the facade of the second deck on Sunday. And
off his cap on the scoreboard.
Off his own picture, the cap of his own picture on the scoreboard out there. But so how long do you think it'll take the Phillies power bats to get back in the swing of things? Do you think they'll hit a few out tonight, or do you think it might take a little while longer for them to get the long ball going?
Well, is Andrew Knapp in the lineup tonight? Let me see. No, I'm kidding. I think tomorrow, maybe we'll see him hit back-to-back, because I would envision in a day game, Knapp probably will be in the lineup. Maybe not, though, since we have off on Thursday. But I definitely envision them getting going at some point. Stroh's definitely a guy, and as you said, his stats are not too sexy against the Phillies. Hasn't pitched in a full year. He has great movement on his stuff, but when he misses his spots with his stuff, he has in the past, when you've watched him in Toronto on his off days, run pitches just right into the happy zone, like his two-seamer, for example, or cutter of a lefty, or a two-seamer into a righty into their happy zone. So I think if you can get some mistake pitches, the dude hasn't pitched in a whole entire calendar year. Yeah, I think there might be some, Reese might be able to jump on one. You might get one down and in that he misses his cutter spot to Harper or something along those lines. I think you should probably see either today or tomorrow, I would say, just because Peterson's another good young lefty, but is more of a location specialist that has a good fastball, but has a good breaking ball and really spots it well. If he leaves his fastball or hanging curveball, you might get one there. I think these two guys are the best chance for someone that's not Andrew Knapp to be able to hit a home run. So I would say that's a good success rate happening in these next 2 days. If you're a betting person and you have extra money, maybe throw it on the next 2 days, because you don't give a crap if you lose it on one of the two, make it up the other one. But yeah, I would say it's going to get going. I see the home run bats coming. You've seen some patience from guys and good at bats, and I think that will come with some home run numbers. And with how Segura's looked a little bit more in line with his swing, I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow he even gets one against Peterson on Wednesday of this week, which will be the 7th, against the day this comes out, against him, just because he's a line drive guy. We've seen him against lefties before just catch a line drive, and he looks pretty zoned in this year compared to some of the rest of our hitters, which I usually don't compliment Gene Segura, so this is huge for me, compared to some of the rest of our hitters, which do not completely. looked that way yet. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case either. I definitely see the home runs coming, but I also see the good pitching staying, which is what I'm more concerned about. Because,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm more confident in this offense going forward. I need to see the pitching continue, which is why I'm not ready to jump for joy after 4 games. I'm just very happy, and then let's wait and see to change predictions or anything like that.
So one last thing here, we were talking about the offense and the home run ball. Who do you think? Do you think it's Segura? Who do you think is the next Philly to ride one out of the park?
I wouldn't think it's Segura just because I feel like he's more likely to do it tomorrow. I would say this evening, I know Reese isn't starting, so I'm not going to pick him unless if he comes off the bench, but that probably wouldn't be against Stroh. Um, Stroman likes his fastballs, and I would have to envision, I'm trying to get the lineup to load on my thing right now. I would have to envision Brad Miller's in for Reese Hoskins. Yes, Brad Miller's in for Reese Hoskins. Stroman likes throwing his different fastballs he has. Miller hasn't meant a fastball that he doesn't like having for lunch. So I'm gonna make an off the board pick here and go, I think our next home run, our first 2 home runs of the year by all people, will be Andrew Knapp for numero uno off the top of his cap, and then Brad Miller on a bomb tonight into the right field seats. That some Brad or not Brad Stroman, Marcus Stroman leaves one over the plate to Brad Miller, and he's able to rip one into the night in right field. So I'm making off the board pick there. He loves his fastballs, and Stro, I think, will throw more of them because he hasn't pitched in a whole year. He has to get comfortable and get a feel for it again. So I see him throwing a good amount of fastballs, and I think Miller might take advantage.
So you're going Brad Miller tonight. How about that? Andrew
Bamboo
Knapp and
magic.
Brad Miller would be tied for the Phillies home run lead. That'll be quite the thing there. I'm actually going to go with Bryce Harper tonight. I think that while it hasn't shown yet, he has had some good swings. He's had some good plate appearances. He drew a couple of walks last night and ended up getting on base and scoring the fourth run for the Phillies, the insurance run on that wild play that him and Reese both scored on. So he's had some nice appearances at the plate. I think that he finally cashes in and sends one over the wall tonight. I think that he gets around on a fastball, and I think he sends it out to I'll say right center field into the I would say probably into the lower bullpen out in right center field. That's what I'm going with Bryce Harper going deep tonight for the Phillies' second home run of the season. All right, so we're about to wrap this up here. And, Bork, do you have any final thoughts that you want to throw in before we call this one an episode?
I think one for me I want to throw out. I know I shouted this guy out last year in whatever the hell podcast it was as a bullpen guy I like. And that's one and only Connor Brogdon, that Roman Quinn. Quinn, helped with the throw out at home plate, of course. But other than that, has been brilliant and got the fly out on that play, too. So he's looked really good, which I always thought that he had the stuff and the tenacity. I know Alex Carr is a guy that's always liked him, too, following him on Twitter. It's to get it done, and he's proven that, but it's nice to see it because we brought in these vets that we were very, like Salisbury has said in the offseason leading in, looking at it from the outside going, we think this will be a better bullpen. You have the Kinchers, you got the Alvarados, you got the Bradley, but to have the youngster also come in and look really good, and Connor Brogdon, who's young in this league, just getting his first full chance here after impressing Girardi some last year. After allowing a home run in his first outing, he was brilliant. So last season, now he's continuing that this season. That's a closing thought for me because I think if you can have that great young pitcher that gets it done combined with these veterans we already have, that would be huge because so far everybody that's come in has looked very good. And I wouldn't even call Coonrod a veteran in the league either just because he hasn't pitched a crap ton of innings. He's kind of been an up and down, a guy that's got sent back down. If he can get going like he did in his first game and stay consistent, that would be big as well. So I'm definitely looking at Brogdon to continue success and also a guy like Coonrod to have his best season in the majors, which we've seen from relievers in their late 20s at times. You can't always find it. Come to a new pitching coach, a new organization, and find it. And I think this new pitching coach and new philosophies he has are working very good for those two.
Yeah, I certainly.
Caleb Cotham, I should mention. Yeah.
I certainly do agree with that right there. And hopefully we see the continued success throughout the course of the season. I just want to give a shout out real quick to Just Food. If you're looking for something to eat while you're watching the Phils, or any occasion if you're looking for food, The best food is available at Just Food. You can reach them by phone at 215-794-3663. It's 215-794-FOOD. They're located in Buckingham Green in Buckingham, Pennsylvania. Their owner, Asian Rob, a great friend of the Always Next to Your podcast network. Check them out. They're awesome. You will not regret it. Once again, Just Food, 215-794-3663. Located in Buckingham Green in Buckingham, Pennsylvania. And one last thing I just want to throw in. I looked it up. Brad Miller does have a home run in his career off of Marcus Stroman. Hit it back in September of 2019 out at Citi Field. So hopefully he gets number 2 tonight, or whenever he's in the lineup. Yes, that will be tonight. Excuse me. So
it's also easier to hit it at CBP than City. So
absolutely.
That logic too.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, anyway, we thank you for listening to this episode of the Chasing the Pennant podcast, and we'll be back with another one on Sunday night.
I used to be revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son, still happy life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.